It is time. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to stand up. It's time for Christians to come together, to share their testimony, to inspire hope, and to join their brothers and sisters as we answer the call. Folks, it's time to wake up the lions. And we have an absolute lioness with us today. You're not going to believe her story. You're not going to believe what she does for a living, what her podcast is. It's absolutely amazing. Could not be more spot on if I ordered it up myself. And I'm so excited she decided to join us on this podcast. I have had the absolute privilege of interviewing this lady before on one of my other podcasts, and I'm just thrilled that she came on this one. So you guys are going to love this. Please welcome to the podcast the host of Biblically Speaking, Cassian Bellino. Cassian, how you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm so glad to be here, Rory. Thank you so much for having me back on.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you very much. This is a very different
Thank you.
podcast. I appreciate you being willing to branch out and, get personal on it like that.
To me, it's all about Jesus. So it's the same conversation. I'm just glad to talk with you again.
Thank you so much. Listen, we have a lot to get into, obviously, but go ahead and tell everybody who is, Cassian Bellino. What are you about? What do you do? What's your story? Go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Cassian Bellino. I'm the youngest of six. I have siblings. I'm single. I'm out here just trying to be a good steward, a good servant. But really just I feel like the prize of my life has been raising my hand in church. And from there, realizing that maybe that's not possible and leading with curiosity and authenticity. I think the best thing I've ever done with my life is kind of admit that I don't know anything and let people come into my life to answer my questions. And that's what biblically speaking is I was a Christian my whole life. And I was like Orthodox and then also non-denominational. So I was in it. And I wasn't just like a Easter Christmas Christian. My family, anytime I snuck out, always came back to God. Always like we were in it. My parents, great parents, but I graduated college loving sin, loving everything that was wrong according to the Bible. And I knew that I was supposed to like God, but I just genuinely didn't. And that was really hard for me to admit. And it just kind of hit me when I lived in Thailand. It was my first job out of college, and I was so far away from home. And I was so fronted with, it's time for you to decide who you want to be. And I knew I wanted to be a Christian, but it really was just going through the motions of like, I'm adult now, so I go to church. And I went to church, and it was a perfect mixture of like closeness. It was half Thai, half English. The pastors were a couple from Sweden. My friends were all Thai, and I was so vulnerable that I was just like willing to say, I need help, I guess. And I went up to one of the pastors after church. And I was like, you know what I think would help is if you did a little bit of background on John before we jumped into that book. Because, like, I don't understand why it's there. I don't know who John is. If he lived today, how old would he be at this time? Why is he like, none of it made sense. And so some might be like, you clearly didn't listen to all the church you went to, but it just like, it didn't. And I knew that if I understood, then I'd probably be more passionate about it. But I wasn't. I wasn't passionate. So why not just ask for help? And I genuinely thought I was doing everybody a favor by just maybe it hasn't happened because no one asked, you know? So I went up to the pastor and I was like, would love some background. And she was so kind. She said, Cass, I think you should join our Bible study. And I'm like, I'm in it. And I still don't know what's going on. And she's like, okay, well, maybe you need to go to seminary. And I was like, is that the option I have is be a confused Christian who doesn't know my faith with a pastor that won't answer my questions or like go back to school, which I wasn't willing to do. And I knew that God wanted me to be close to him. I felt the pull. This was an internal thing that I genuinely, I just didn't get it. And I knew that if I did understand God, I'd probably want him back. And so most of my prayers, like my first 25 years of life, were God, I want you. And I should have been praying back then, but now when I'm fronted with that, it's God, break my heart about this. And we've heard that, break my heart for what breaks yours. But it's like truly that prayer of like, God, I love this sin. And like we'll get into my sin today in a little bit, but God, if you hate this, show me why. And that's now how I've evolved because I know my flesh. I know that we're in a fallen world. I know I'll be tempted. So you have guidance here. Show me the reasoning behind that guidance. And I think just that headspace of like the Bible, of like, okay, God, you say this is wrong. Why? And maybe there's just further context I need. Who can give me context from like a historical standpoint? What was going on in the government at that point? And so in Thailand at lunch. I was talking to my friend. I said, you know what? I just wish there was a podcast where a really smart person would answer really dumb questions, maybe like with a funny person too, because I do believe that we have a sense of humor because God gave us one. And that was 5 years ago. That was 2018. So maybe that was 8 years ago. I don't know. And 7 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And then I just went about my life. And I think God, that was a mustard seed because for 5 years, God introduced me to people that brought books into my life that were Christian books, but they were enjoyable. Books like The Book of Longing by Sue Monk Kidd or Redeeming Love by, oh my gosh, something Rivers. I don't know. They're fictional books that put you in the heart posture of loving God in a new way. It wasn't like this cringy Christian. It was like a genuine type of love that you felt in the author's eyes. And then I did something crazy and I read Crazy Love, which I knew would change my life. And I like was warned, like when you read Crazy Love, you won't be the same. And so I avoided it. And then I finally read it. And Francis Chan does such a good job of being like, this is the faith, take it or leave it. There is no negotiation here. You either do this and be a Christian or you cannot call yourself a Christian. And one of the things that stuck with me in that book was the only thing God wants us to do is love others and know Him. And I was like, okay, done and done. I think I can handle that. So God, how do I get to know you? Because YouTube takes too long. Seminary, not going to do that. Bible studies too emotional. Like I was looking for this podcast that I spoke about in 2018. And then I joined a Bible study with my sister who led it, and it was all these mature women that knew how to pray. They weren't just talking about their troubles, they were praying over me. And then I went through a breakup, and in the middle of the breakup, I had a vision from the Holy Spirit that was like so clearly from the Holy Spirit, showing that like this was not my husband and how unequally yoked we were. And I think at that point, I was like, okay, God, like I actually don't know what I'm doing, and you seem like the smarter one of us two. So I'm gonna actually start depending on you. So it became this very logical progression of dependence. It wasn't like, well, I have to. It was, oh, logically, I'm going to go with the smarter person in the room. And I'm more than willing to admit I'm not the smartest person. And you're already proving that you are. And so I moved out to Hawaii about 3 years ago. And I kind of was like still in the same, like, gosh, if only like I just don't get it, you know? Like I still love my sin. I'm still doing XYZ. And my sister was like, well, maybe you haven't found the podcast because you're supposed to do it. And so that was like 6 months of me being like, God, you got the wrong girl. You know what I did in college. Like you like of all the people to represent the faith, I'm not the girl. And I don't know podcasting and I don't have guests. I reason it's gonna fail. It got to a point where I met a pastor on a plane and he was like, hey, this is a command. You have to do this. This is no longer a suggestion from the Lord, and you would be disobedient if you don't do it. And I was like, why would you say that? And so and then I had guests and I did it and it went viral and now here we are 2 years in and we're still here and people are messaging me that I'm asking the same questions they've always asked and like it's I'm glad to be involved. None of this is successful because of me. Like this was something that God needed to get done, and I'm glad He chose me to do it. But the success of it, it's so perfect. The idea is amazing. I bring on scholars, I ask my dumb questions, and then they answer it, and people love it. Like the Lord has anointed this so clearly in its success. But I'm so grateful that my unique testimony brought me here because I'm learning so much in the faith. Like, I think I used to believe like being Christian, that's lame. Like, I don't know who taught us that, maybe Hollywood, but it's one of the most fascinating things. The deeper you get into the faith and the contextualization of the word and like why they said what they said, it's just because we were privy to the conversations at that time and historically how things played out with, the governments and languages. That's how we got where we were. And as you dissect it, it's like, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And that one thing that doesn't make sense, that's where his power comes into play because this is a supernatural, I was just talking about the transfiguration, and this wasn't just like a random event with the transfiguration. Moses and Elijah show up, and the disciples see Jesus, and his face is shining, and it's like, what was that all about? No, that was like a preview of heaven. That is what salvation looks like. Moses's face shined when he saw God on Mount Sinai, and then Jesus shined, and he says, "Forget these prophets, guys. I am God. I am shining." And that was like a statement in time that we look back and we're like, yeah, yeah, because he's God. We knew that. We knew that from the beginning. That was like why we started reading the Bible. At that time, they were still looking at Moses, like Mosaic law and the prophet Isaiah, or I'm sorry, the prophet Elijah. And then Jesus says, forget about them. I am the one where the light's coming from. And so it's those moments where it's like, I skipped over that, the bleeding woman, I skipped over that. And then you spend an hour talking about it and you're like, this is so much bigger than me. Actually, like follower count doesn't matter. 401k doesn't matter. My career on my resume doesn't matter. This matters. This matters so much. And I'm not the most persuasive person, but I do think that if you have two ears and you hear the fascination of the word, no one can deny how wonderful it is. And the fact that we have an optional, voluntary opportunity to opt in into the greatest heritage known to mankind on this earth, to become a child of God. That's a voluntary thing we can choose to do. It's one of the greatest decisions we can make in this life. And it's actually a cool one. It's not even like a boring one. So that's what I do. I am confused, but I'm curious, and it's led me down this really wonderful passion, meaning, purpose, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's it.
I mean, that's just amazing. I knew as soon as I let you
See
off
ya.
the leash, it was like, there she goes, so,
So that's who I
um,
am. Thanks for asking one question.
it's absolutely beautiful. It's such a unique story. I mean, I've heard, part of that before, but, yeah, I still sit here and go, most people are not thinking that way about God or the Bible or anything else when they're young people. They're distracted by everything else under the sun. If they don't understand something in the Bible, they go, next, and they move on, right? Didn't get that, but hey, let me move over here. You were fixated on understanding it.
Yeah, I think I was that person though. And I probably would still be that person that goes to church. Oh, bleeding woman, that's weird. Okay, so Jesus has a magic cloak that stops, menstrual pain, whatever it might be. I think it was a perfect storm of conviction. I don't think I would have done it had that pastor not said that this is a command. Like I am by no means a disciplined person. And so I think that the Lord was like, Cass, I called you. Like you've been praying for purpose. You've been praying for, oh my gosh, I might cry. You've been praying for answers. And this is it, Cass. And I think I was like, okay, like you just had like he just primed me so well, but by no means was I beyond all of those things. I absolutely dismissed a lot of the Bible because it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's what's so unique about you. And so I guess it's kind of like, where does that come from? That just wanting to dig in and find out more, and now you're even doing this on your shows. You bring people on so that you can dig in with them and find out more. I understand being called by God, but before that, there's a seed planted somewhere. I mean, where does that come from with you?
Element? Maybe I'm just entitled and the youngest, the baby of the family, so I get what I want. I don't know what it is, Rory. I think it is just, but I think it's one of those chance things. Like I think it's beyond control. Like I don't think there was a vision to this extent. I think it's I asked questions, I got answers, and then I slowly realized that there's no question really off the table for a God of the universe. It's just a matter of like capacity to find the right person that studied that specific topic. And I think that it's opened up my eyes of like, oh, oh, so before when I couldn't ask why is homosexuality wrong, it's just because I was asking somebody that wasn't really, they didn't have the right answer. Like their answer would have brought me farther away from God. It's not that there isn't an answer. And now I've had really well thought out, well paced, well researched conversations with scholars who can handle that question. And all of it points back to a loving God. So I think that before it's like, of course you're confused in faith when it's like, this doesn't make sense to me. Why? And then someone says, I don't know the answer to it. They're doing you a favor because anything else that, just they'll just make it up. But I think that I've like slowly realized like, okay, there's no question that's off the table. So when I come to God and I say I'm struggling with this, why? Why are you letting me struggle with this? Why is this wrong in your eyes? Because I want to do it. God has an answer. And that's completely cracked open my world. It's like really broken every chain, some would say. And, it's like a limitless type of world now because it's like, oh my gosh, what's possible? Like there's nothing off limits.
Yeah. Wow. I love that answer. I absolutely love that answer and your viewpoint. So, because of all this, you've finally said, all right, well, someone has to do a podcast about this. It's going to be me. I'm the one who's going to go do it. So let everybody know, because it's very relevant to, what we talk about here. If they tune into your podcast, biblically speaking, what are they going to encounter and experience when they
Mm.
watch one of your episodes?
Okay. It's pretty much like a dinner conversation. When I sit down with guests, we have a lot of prep. We like have a phone call, we like map out exactly what we're going to ask, and so we want to make sure that there's a direction here. It's not like we don't wing it. And so I know where the conversation's going, but it really comes from a place of like genuine curiosity. But when we prep, it's, hey, I want you to pretend like we're having dinner and I'm asking you about your job and I'm asking you about your work. That's how I prep it. I'm like, this is not an altar call. This is not a lecture. This is simply you telling me about your job and me being like me taking advantage of an opportunity to learn more about this topic and, being a great host, whatever it might be, whatever you might want to call it. But I'm just thinking most recently we had this episode that came out about the transfiguration, which was not something I genuinely wanted to talk about. Like when I started this podcast, I had a whole plan, but you don't get to tell scholars what you're going to talk about. You talk about what they're an expert in. And so this guy, Dr. Kevin Van Hooser, not some guy, this scholar, sorry, he came on my show and he was like, let's talk about the transfiguration. And it really was okay, transfiguration. For people who have maybe listening in because they're doing me a favor. What is the transfiguration? And he explains it. We go over the verse. Okay, how did you come to a place that you know so much about the transfiguration? I want to establish a basis of credibility here
Right.
because is now like why are you on this show? And they could talk about how they ended up there. They could talk about their studies, whatever it might be. Um, and then it really kind of starts wide and then it narrows in on, well, what does this mean for us Christians today? How do we relate to something thousands of years ago? How do we relate to a God that doesn't seem so present in the way that the disciples experienced Jesus in that moment? What do we take away from this? What does this tell us about God? And I think it's a mixture of, okay, what is the transfiguration? How did you even come to know so much about it? What are we missing here as listeners or readers, sorry, of the Bible? When I read this, if I was in that moment, what would I know that I today in 2025 don't know? Oh, there was a conversation going on. Oh, there were two prophets arguing about this viewpoint that like you either were on one side or the other. Oh, there was actually like a huge geopolitical war going on, and that's why people were kind of testy at the time. That context adds so much value to the conversations. Like that's why it was left out. That's why it was included. That's why that specific translation was used. That's why they did or didn't react in that way. So now I feel like I'm there and I'm experiencing it. And then you have a theologian like take it home with like, but we're not there. We're here. So what does that mean? And I think that that journey really, I don't want to say like modernizes, but it makes it very relevant to today. And it's just truly amazing. I mean, it makes me sad that like not everybody gets this every day and every week in church, but thank God that it's there on my podcast. But I think it really is just a mixture of our pastors aren't and this was just something I came up in my head. I thought my pastor knew every single thing in the Bible, and that's just simply not how seminary is set up. It's not their fault. It's just seminary requirements don't require a pastor to know every single thing about the Bible in every single language, including history. They are taught in leadership and pastoral leadership and knowing the New Testament and knowing one of the languages. They're not really taught Old Testament, which is why this is sometimes confusing for us churchgoers. Again, not the pastor's fault. They did their due diligence here. But it might explain why maybe some people like left the church because they felt unheard, or they left the church because they were unanswered, they weren't guided well, whatever it might be. I hope that this podcast is the church service that's actually a history lesson. It's actually a conversation. It's actually something that opens your eyes beyond the, okay, now do the thing that you're supposed to do and give your life to Christ. It's, I have to follow this. That's what I want people to feel at the end of it, of this makes the most sense to me. Now that you've explained it simply, why would I believe anything else? And that's kind of the point, is that I didn't want to be a Christian because I had to. I wanted to be a Christian because I wanted to, because it made no sense to not, it didn't make sense to not be a Christian. Like I wanted to follow Jesus because that was the best possible option in my life. And I feel like these podcasts are like the Bible studies I've always wanted and the church services I always wish I had. And hopefully, my goal for the world is that we end up, in that direction, that we hold pastors to a higher standard and we hold Christians to a higher standard to actually know their faith.
I love that last part
I need to
especially.
do, I need to do better, like leaving you like, right? Don't you agree?
You're You're doing fantastically. Don't worry
Thanks,
about
Rory.
a thing. Okay.
Thank you.
The last person who needs to be talking right now is me. Right. This is about you, and you're delivering like crazy. So, and
Thanks.
I knew you would. That's why I asked you to come on. Then I can just sit back,
Thank
drink
you.
coffee, and then when it's all over, I'm good. Right. It's
Right, right, right.
right.
Thank you and goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. See you guys.
Yeah.
No, I love every ounce of it, especially the last part. You know, do you suppose anybody, um, other than God, himself, do you suppose anybody knows everything there is to know about the Bible?
I think God. Yeah, I think if
Yeah,
that person did, they'd be God.
right. That's pretty much it, right?
I've had a lot of smart, I've had so many smart people like Hugh Ross, John Walton, Dr. Hugh Ross, Dr. John Walton, Pastor Douglas Wilson, like the smartest of the smart. None of them agree. None of them know fully. They're still worthy of being listened to. Even the disciples, they don't know everything. But if they did, they'd be God. And I think that we find that there's two ways to look at that, of like, how great is our God? How unfathomable is our God? Or you can say, see, nobody knows. Nobody agrees. Everybody disagrees. Say it's full of contradictions. I choose the former because I think that the latter is so close-minded.
Hmm. I like that. Wow, I like that a lot. Interesting. So, as you are bringing these people on here, and I didn't realize this last time I talked to you, as you're bringing these people on here, do you have a method or a schedule or any sort of a map, through the Bible where you're bringing your guests on, or is it you bring a guest on, you talk about a certain part, and that's what you're talking about based on just when they can get on and when you can get it out? You know what I mean?
Oh, like, do I plan out the whole year and say, well, we're talking about John
Well,
in
like, is there
December and we're
is there a method to the madness of
talking
when you
about
bring people
Isaiah in
on? Yeah.
February?
Or is it, hey, this guy's
There's
an
a
expert
lot
in
of
this. That's what we're talking about today.
the business plan here, Rory, is God has a plan. I no no no. This is a solo production. I the when people are like, that was perfectly timed, wasn't that? Yeah, because God let it. I didn't.
I got you.
I just book out. When's the next availability? That's when we're getting booked.
That's so
Except for
perfect.
recently, I did have an Orthodox priest that wanted to explain the nativity scene. Of course, I put that around Christmas. I booked that out a couple weeks or like later than what it would have been. Or when my first episode was about demons, I released it in October. It just kind of made sense. But all of us are winging it, Rory. All
I
of
love it.
us.
I love it. Funny you should mention demons and things like that. Because one of the things
Mm,
that we like to talk about on here is spiritual warfare, how you have seen it, how you've encountered it.
mm.
I mean, obviously wear your faith on your sleeve. Nobody, hears about you or knows you and doesn't know that you are a card carrying Christian, you're a believer, full in. You have a gigantic following that, all seem to just love you. So you're out there for sure. There's nothing about you that's quiet and, like being a little mouse hiding in a corner about your faith. But when people are like that, inevitably they run into resistance, they run into various forms of hate, people trying to derail them from their cause. Have you run into that kind of thing? If so, how? Tell us about it.
Yeah, every single day. I
Really?
think before I started this podcast, no one knew I was a Christian. Oh my gosh, every single day to right now. And you might be thinking like, oh, you got like a devil on your shoulder. No, the devil is so smart and he is hitting me in exactly the way that he knows I would fall. Like that's what makes it warfare. Like it's so sneaky. I before I started this podcast, like no one knew I was a Christian. And that was like part of the fear of like, oh my gosh, people are gonna know that like I'm not gonna want to have sex with them. Like people are gonna stop hanging out with me. And that was a social fear. Again, like the enemy being like, Cass, people aren't gonna want to hang out with you. They're gonna think you're weird and cringy. And like to this day, I know people are like, oh, Cassie's going through her Jesus era. Cassie's a Jesus freak. Like I've heard the whispers and it's 100% true. Like at this point I'm confident in it. Maybe before I wouldn't have been so confident that would hurt. But I knew like I would never wear Christian streetwear, like where people are like, God loves you on your shirt. I would never wear that. That's so weird. I knew my heart posture was changing because I was starting the podcast and I ordered a sweatshirt from God's Love Overcomes, this like really, really cool website. And it was this huge sweatshirt that said living proof of a living God. And I was like so excited. So I was like, okay, I'm changing. Like I actually am excited to wear this. I'm looking forward to it. But my mom, she was like, "Hey, Cass, so like this is kind of, when it first caught attention at the beginning, she's like, you're going to be under spiritual warfare." And I was like, "Okay." And at the time I was in this relationship and it was very tumultuous. Just like he was a great guy and he loved me a lot, but I was so conflicted. Like I had this lack of stability and I was just felt fear and anxiety. And I was just like, God, I don't know if like you're trying to ruin a good thing or this man's not the one. But I'm just confused. And I didn't know at the time like that I could have just cast out that demon of confusion at that moment as a child of God. I'm a child of God. I have clarity. I have direction. I have guidance. Why the heck am I confused? And to this day now, like I have fasted and prayed and broken those chains, but that is again a daily thing. And so that was really, really hard to like wake up and just be like, nothing makes sense. And so that relationship ended up ending, unfortunately. But then um I got about 8 months ago from a job, and I think any normal person would have been like, all right, get back on the horse, enjoy unemployment benefits for a month, and then get a new job. And no, I took it way seriously. I was like, I'm going to go full throttle with my podcast. Every single day I woke up, the first thought in my head was, you're not worthy of success. You are a loser. You don't deserve anything. Like, first thought, I was like,
Yeah.
too early. And it was like, God, this is not of you. Like, I like, I was like, this is crazy how, like, it's almost laughable that it's like this early in the morning, Satan. Like, come on. But it was this like starting the day with like, you're nothing. Like you'll never succeed and you're horrible. And you're just like, God, can you step in right now, God? Like, is it too early to, like, this is insane. But then, and like, I have seen, like, I can tell you some demon stories if you want. Like, we can go there, but this is the reality, I think, of any creator. And like, now it's gotten to a point, like, my main spiritual warfare is like sexual sin. And it's sexual sin because it's manifested as sexual sin because the core thing that the devil is preying on with me is you're not married and you need love and
Oh,
you
wow.
like need to be desired. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's such a real emotion that you're like, God, like I'm sorry for like falling into sin, but like how do I like fill this with you? Because like I don't think sex is the problem. Like you created sex, sex is great. And I know that like that I understand how it's wrong, but like it's really just Satan like making me feel like my time is running out, so I need to rush something that God is perfectly planning for me, and I'm taking control. Like at the end of the day, sexual sin is just me taking control of God's process for me and the husband he has. Like it's me rushing something with someone that God is clearly being like, "Hey, patience," and like all these things. I understand it, but it's like once you fall into sexual sin, and I'm really struggling with it, is like the guilt and shame and it, like especially with the channel, you're like, I'm a hypocrite and I need to stop. Like, who am I to like tell people to be better? Like when I'm the worst of the worst. And I know even that's an attack from the enemy. And like my sister's been Maggie, she gets mad when I don't say her name, Maggie, when she supports me in this. She's like, Cass, like you messed up. Like we're all gonna mess up. Do better. Like what happened, what matters most is what happens next. And like I was like, I think I was gonna shut down the channel. Like I'm not worthy of this. I'm the worst leader. I'm a hypocrite. And she's like, yeah, Satan's like loving this right now. He's like, this is what he wants is for you to feel shame and for you to feel guilt. And like, how do you give all of this to God, So this is the spiritual warfare. It's not the ghosts, it's not the demons, like it's not, what is it, sleep paralysis. It's like Satan being like, you're not in control at all and you're failing in every way. But it's so weird because like knowing what I know, and I know that even this will be used to glorify God. And like weirdly enough, and I don't know, like God we'll see over time. I'm not stating anything here. But when I hit like rock bottom, this was like 2 weeks ago, that this is like so fresh. I just haven't talked about it because I feel like a horrible person, but I um I knew that this channel needed a prayer group. Like I knew that like when I make it big and I have enough money to like pay people, um I'll pay people to pray for this channel. Like I'll have a designated department of prayers. And when I hit this like bottom 2 weeks ago, I'm like, I think I just have to like start it now. And so I started this like private WhatsApp group. And like of all the things, like we've talked about the things I've done for this channel, why didn't I start here? Here's a free WhatsApp group that anybody can join. Right now, anybody can join it. And so all these people joined. I think there's like 40 people, which is insane. I was like, hey guys, this isn't for me to serve you. Like I know you're like here for the podcast. I actually need your help. And I need you all to pray for this channel. And people did. People just started like texting prayers to me. Like shout out to Dan Shields. He texts me prayer every single day. He's just a friend of the pod that like we've met in person now. But I mean, like we had a video chat. We have video chats every Sunday, and it's just like 15 minutes of prayer. And it's just like an opportunity for us to be vulnerable. And like the first one we did last week, people were like, I was crying. People were crying. People were like sharing testimony. And so it's like, even in the middle of all this, it's still going to glorify God. I knew that like I'm horrible and I'm so unworthy of this. And, maybe someone's listening and they're like, I'm never going to listen to that. It's like, I totally understand that. But I think that no matter what, how bad or good I get, it's still going to somehow point back to the glory of God. And I think there's a scripture on that somewhere. So that's been like kind of my hope in the middle of like going through the spiritual warfare and failing in it, like really succumbing to Satan in this, is like it's still somehow gonna like God will still win in this, not Satan. Even though I screwed up, he's big enough for it to point back to him. But yeah, demons are so real. And I think that it's not like, oh, I run a Christian channel, so I'm immune. It's like, no, Satan's getting sneakier. And I know that when I overcome this, it'll be something else. It'll be, I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not a good enough wife, whatever it might be. It won't stop. But I think that the spiritual realm, which I love talking about, the unseen realm is so real, and we are at war. And if you don't have Christ in your life, who's fighting your battles? Like there are demons and there are angels. And if you're not on team God, who's going to protect you when Satan attacks? And I don't mean to like it's just logic. Like what team are you on? And I think it's just like it's like who's keeping you healthy? Like what protections do you have? And for me, that's enough. But oh my gosh, yeah, demons are so real as well. I've lived in houses where we look back and like those were demons in those homes. We just thought there was like a friendly ghost in that house. But I've spoken to a lot of scholars and they're like, yeah, that thing you saw in your room, that man towering over your bed in the middle of the night, it wasn't like a real man, but it was like a dark figure, and unrelated people saw it. That was a demon coming into our home, and that's insane. Like this is a very real experience of the supernatural here on Earth. And a lot of scholars will say like aliens are supernatural, and the ways it manifests, like that's a fun conversation, but it's still true. Like it's still very real, whether it's like a demonic in your ear or telling you that you need to do better, that you're not enough, or that you're unworthy, or it's the ghost in your room, whatever it might be. But I think even more so reason to be Team God, I guess.
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry you've had to go through that the last few weeks, especially. That's very heavy, and it's a very big attack to be
Thanks.
dealing with. Yeah. Um, People ask all the time, well, why do some people have it so easy? Right. And then other people, well, they believe in God and they're doing the right thing, but they seem to have it harder. I'm a real big believer in the fact that, if you're not a threat to the devil, he doesn't do anything to you. He makes sure that he keeps your
Yeah.
path nice and easy and soft so that you never have to face adversity and you never have to get stronger because then you're no threat. When you're a threat. You're an absolute
Yeah.
threat. I mean, you are mobilizing thousands of people. You are one of the biggest lions I've ever met. in person.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, you are out there doing what you're doing. And you're not even just proclaiming your faith, you're explaining your faith so that people who don't even get it can go, oh, maybe I get this now. You're bringing people in who before were just in happy bliss and not understanding it. Now they're understanding it and they're questioning. And all of a sudden, they're going to become threats. So you got to know that he's going to try and take you down. 100% he's going to try and take you down because you're an absolute threat, Cassie. I mean, really,
Thank you, Rory.
just
Thank you.
I'm very proud of you. And I don't want that to sound the wrong
Thanks.
way, but I just really am. I'm very proud of the work you're doing. I absolutely love every minute of it, and I love the way you approach it. And I don't let that hit you. I mean, God's in your corner, 100%. Lean on him.
Thank you.
That's why he's there.
Thank you. You're doing so well reacting to me cry. I cry every day. So this is like not weird for me, but it's funny when someone else watches me cry and I'm like, you gotta hand, we're going through this one together. I was recording an episode with my favorite scholar. He's so smart, Dr. James Sedlicek, and he came on to talk about fast and feast and what in the Torah do we need to obey today? Do we need to be fasting and feasting? There's so much. If I'm going to live biblically, what does that look like? And he did such a good job explaining every single feast. And he talks about the Seder feast, which is like a Jewish tradition to have a Seder feast. You eat certain foods and you say certain things. There's like a whole script to it. It's kind of like Shabbat. And so when Jesus stood up and he was like, take this bread broken for you, drink this blood spilled for you. And he's saying all this. That was during a Seder feast. And Jesus went off script and he was talking instead Jewish marriage vows when he's saying that. I first hear this on the podcast live, and Dr. James Sedlicek, genius, savant even, is telling this to me. I am hit with a wave of emotion, and like he he stops talking because he notices that I get red in the face and my eyes go bloodshot and I start crying. And I was like, "Go on." He's like, and that's at the end. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "That was so good." So you're doing a great job right now, Rory. Like,
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been around a little while. It's not my first rodeo. We're okay. But oh my gosh.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you answering that question too, because I knew right off the bat that wasn't an easy one for you. When we started talking about demons and spiritual warfare, I mean, you lit up immediately, and you were like, "Oh, yeah,
We're
let
going
me
there.
let me tell you something. This is it. Okay, then let's go."
That Holy Spirit pitter patter in my heart was like, now's your time. Gotta be honest. Like, okay.
Well, I'm glad that you were. I love that. I really do.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for asking it.
One of the other things that we talk about on here is building discipleship because we're all called to do that. One way or another. Um, Obviously, you are doing that on a grand scheme, bringing more and more and more people, thousands of people following you, into the fold, simply by leading by example. So I'm not going to have to sit here and ask you to do that. But what I am curious about, and maybe you can shed some light on this, because of your own personal journey, is there are a lot of people out there who are not comfortable with that yet. They want to be, but they're not yet. And at one point, you were not that comfortable about it, and you somehow became comfortable on it. So, what was that journey like for you to sort of be able to start speaking about it, be more confident in that, and become the lion that you are now? And maybe that'll help some other people to do the same.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think that what worked for me will work for anybody else other than me, first of all. But I think what worked for me was finding like how do I feel secure? It's talking to my sisters. It's externally processing. It's talking to people that I trust and love that validated me. And I think that being able to go to people that I know and trust and love and to be like, I'm struggling with this. This doesn't make sense. And for them, the people that I valued pour life into me to encourage me to kind of allow me. Like I think I just needed permission to go boldly and say, well, even if I fail, that's still okay. And they're like, yeah, it's still okay. So that's what worked for me. And then it just kind of, and then like the Lord like blessed, like I thought I would lose all my friends. I genuinely was prepared for that. my friends are still my friends. Like they're amazing and they're like not super Christian, which is even cooler. Like I think all of these are gifts from God. And the sisters that I have and the family that I have, I do have a brother and he's very supportive, but Maggie specifically of all my siblings has been very supportive. And um having friends that like stayed around despite me becoming, quote, very Christian. And I think what allowed me to be bold is having a really, really strong support system and like a circle of people that were willing to hold me in their hands and like carry my water. That might not be the same for other people. They might not have that. That might not work for them. But I do think that like community, and that is what I feel like the purpose of church is. Maybe like that is where you kind of get that safety net of like, hey, I had to be super vulnerable and admit that I don't know the God that I gave my life to, or I had to be super vulnerable and unidentify with my agnostic family and go out on a limb to become Christian. And I'm going to lose an identity and have to create a new one that's Christian. That's extremely terrifying. Um, I think that that's where the power of community comes in. I think that that's where you step into boldness, being like, hey, God, it's time to shine. Like, if you're my comforter, you need to comfort me and letting him. I think that that's part of it. And then he will. Might not look exactly how you think, but he will. And I think I've met many angels in my life. There's so many. We talk about demons, but I've met so many angels, and they looked like little boys that were annoying me and flirting with me, but they saved my life at the time. You know, like angels that looked like old men that, but they saved my life at the time. Like those were sent. An angel's just a messenger. They were sent by God, and they don't even know it. Um, yeah, I think discipleship is terrifying. And that's what makes it worth it. And I don't mean to like have a cliche, but I think that this is absolutely terrifying and it's not for the weak. And, you know, Godspeed to you because it's gonna suck. But my life has never been more meaningful. It's this like masochistic Christianity that I always joke about with my sister. Like in the middle of my unemployment, I had no vision, I had no money, I had no man. Like I was like, I'm bottom of the bottom of my life right now. I was talking to my sister and I was like, but I'm so grateful because God's gonna show up. And she's like, we are so grateful. I'm like, I'm single, I'm broke, I'm overweight, I've got no vision. But thank you, God. And it's this masochistic Christianity that at the end of the day, that's where he like really shows that's where he really shows up. I mean, you think about Daniel, and this I did an interview and this like changed my life. This was like one of those one-liners in an episode that changed my life is like we're asked to give thanks to God all the time, which is such like a well, do it because that's what Christians do. And I'm like, okay, like thank you, God, for me getting laid off. That doesn't make any sense. But you think like Daniel when he got sentenced to the lions by his like colleagues, and he's like, "Dang, like I'm out here praying 3 times a day, God, and like you turn my colleagues against me because they have that decree of like anybody that doesn't worship you, King, has to go to the lion's den." And so they set him up, and he knows that, you know, because they kind of come to Daniel and they're like, "Daniel, lion's den, we caught you praying." You know what he did? He went home and prayed more. Because, and like, this is the point. Like, he's like, thank you, God, for this because this is such an opportunity for you to show up. Like, I'm so excited because now I get to see your glory because it's so bad. But like, you get to show up. And I'm so grateful for that. And that really changed my brain chemistry when it comes to like, oh, I'm laid off. I'm single. I've got no prospects. I've got no job. I've got no money. Thank you. Because like, whoa, you're going to do something big. And it's clearly going to point back to you because none of this is going to happen by my own means. And so that like really helped me. And I think kind of going back to your question on discipleship, which way back there, um, I think it really is like, hey, God, like, thanks for this like horrible place I'm in because now you get to do the heavy lifting. And for those that don't know, Daniel gets saved by the lions. He doesn't get eaten.
That's
Like God did show up.
Thanks for finishing that story. In case anybody didn't know that was would have been a really awful story if it ended the other way. I'm not sure they would have made a children's book out of it if he had just gotten eaten. So, yeah, that would have been
The book
bad.
of Daniel is wild. Yeah, I didn't read the book of Daniel until I interviewed the guy on it. And now I read it. I'm like, oh, this is a Hollywood epic. It's so good. It's so good.
Could be. Yeah, not today's
Until
Hollywood.
like chapter 9. Until chapter 9. Then like
Hmm.
it's okay to log off then. It's really crazy.
Okay, everybody who hears this right now is rushing over to their Bible and they're like, "Oh my goodness, what's in chapter 9? Where is it at? I gotta."
You tell me, what is in chapter 9? I would love to know.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I love that answer. I really do. And when people think about it, they're very often very put off by the idea of building discipleship and putting their words out there and putting themselves out there because they know the hate that's coming. I did
Oh
one
yeah.
one reel to say, hey, new podcast coming. Here we go. I got 200 comments that were hateful on one reel.
What?
One reel, one time. That's all. Just to
What were
say,
the
hey, this is
hate
coming.
comments?
Oh goodness, they ranged from "you better not," point blank, just "you better
Oh
not,"
my gosh.
right? Which is like, oh, okay, really?
Well, you have crazy followers. We've
That's
talked about this. You have anybody listening, you guys are crazy. You guys are like my followers are not like that. But I do get
wow.
hate comments. And
They
when
weren't
I
coming
I
from my
knew I
followers.
they probably well, they saw your stuff.
What?
I feel
That
like once you
happens.
get hate comments, that means you made it. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
You
See,
better not.
I think Facebook puts it out there on purpose, where they know it's going to get the hate, so that you
Oh
back
yeah.
off and don't do it. But that's why it's a good thing you're over on WhatsApp,
Yeah.
right?
No, the hate comments, oh, I love them. I love them so much. Because it's so reflective of like, this is how people think.
Hmm.
Okay. Now we kind of know, like, this is just like an intro into people's minds. That's okay.
Right.
You
Right.
thought that, you thought that, and then thank you for sharing that, but it's just not going to change anything.
Right.
Like, you know that of all people, like, you have the craziest stories. Like, you are unaffected in your direction and what you post, Rory.
You're right. I've
Agree with
received,
me.
yeah, I mean, you're right. There's nothing else to say there. I've received 3 death threats up until now. So it's, you know,
Insane.
what are you going
Insane.
to do? So,
I have not received death threats, but I received something similarly worse. And I went to the cops about it. I had somebody send me an explicit photo without my permission. And that's the worst I've ever gotten. And I went to the cops and I was like, hey, I just want this on the record because I don't think that this is okay for somebody to send. And they go, oh, you probably get way worse. I'm like, no. If I had gotten 3 death threats, I probably would have shut down. That's insane.
no, no, you wouldn't. It just, if nobody's coming after you, then, you're not ruffling the feathers, then you're not making a difference. And you are. And that's why
Great.
you're
Well
dealing with what you're
said.
dealing with. There you go.
Well said.
Wonderful. I love everything that you brought today. I really do. And, as we kind of, wrap this thing a little bit and bring it in for a landing, um, with everything that you've learned and everything that you learn regularly from all of these experts that you talk to and, people that you talk to in the street and all your fans and followers, what's one piece of advice? And I'm going to go slow with this so you can think about an answer. All right. Because I did not prep you for this. I'm going to let everybody know I didn't prep her for this. This is just coming out right now. What's a piece of advice you can give to folks who want to step up, want to be a little more active? They're a little more afraid. They want to be more active. They're afraid of, some of the hate that may come back their way. But what's a piece of advice you can give them to start putting themselves out there, so that they can start to make a difference?
Make a difference?
Mhm.
Like in faith?
Start to make a difference in
Oh my
building
gosh.
discipleship.
Oh, right, right, right.
Right.
I feel like if you do it because you feel like you have to, it's not going to go well. So if I were to get started, or anybody feels like maybe they will, maybe they won't, they feel like they should, but they don't really want to. I feel like it's first of all, you have to realize that if you feel like you should and maybe you're just scared, there's a reason that God's put this on your heart. That he's got real big plans for you and you specifically that only you can carry out. Anybody else could have done the same podcast as me, but not the way I do it. But like God is asking you for a specific reason. And you feel fear because that's the enemy. Like you feel fear because you're human. And you probably feel fear because you're not maybe trusting the Lord as much as you think you are. And that's okay. But let's admit it if that's the case. And if you do feel fear, God also knows that. And if you maybe are afraid to move forward because you don't know God well enough, you don't know He'll catch you if you fall, or you're not really sure if you can handle it, I would, before you do anything, I wouldn't start preaching on the corner. I would go to God with these feelings. I would say, hey, I feel like you want me to do this thing for you, but honestly, I'm scared. honestly, I don't trust that like it's gonna go well for me. And I would just like say that to God. I would admit that to God and let him respond. Maybe even give him a little test and say, God, if you really want me to do this, I need you to show up in this way. Like I have a secret word for my husband. He doesn't know it yet, but when he says it to me, I'll know he's my husband. Cause like I'm like, God, I'll miss him if you don't tell me. So God, you let me know he's mine. But I think that, it's like, God, if you really want me to do this, show me that you're trustworthy. And I think maybe as Christians, we're like, I can't admit that I don't trust God. I can't admit that God's not trustworthy. You already think it. You already feel it. Like, I think the best thing you can do is go to God with it, and just say, God, like, can you at least show me proof that you'll catch me in a micro way, tiny way? Show me that this person will show up for me, that this person will call me when they haven't called in a while, that this job will actually pan out. They'll get the promotion or I'll get the job. Show me that I can depend on you, God. Like, help me build trust in you. If you are so trustworthy and you have such a grand plan that I should act on, give me a little bit here, God. And God will say, cool, thanks for coming to me. And I genuinely believe that God is the type of product you can ding dong ditch on someone's doorstep and you can just like knock, leave him there, he'll do the rest. So like, and maybe people are like, this is crazy and I don't believe in God and I don't believe in blind faith and I need logic. Okay. For those people, I challenge you just to pray. Because if God doesn't exist, then he won't hear you. Nothing happens. Your life doesn't change. But if he does, then you just like opened a really beautiful door and like let him into your life to potentially make it better. Win, win, win. So I think that, yeah, I would say like get really, really honest. That's what I would
Nice.
say. And
Nice.
then go from there. I think I always think I don't know about you, but I hear discipleship and I'm like, I don't want to stand on a sidewalk and tell people they're going to hell. Like,
I think
but I
people
don't think
think of that.
anybody does. Like, I don't think God wants me to do that either.
You're right, though. I think that's what people picture in their minds.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be standing
And that is scary.
up on a chair in some room, like preaching. It's like, no, just, just share your faith,
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. You're amazing. I knew you would be. I knew you were going to come through with just some fantastic stuff. I had no idea you were going to cry. So I certainly apologize for that.
Me neither.
Um,
We timed that perfectly. No.
but really and truly, I love what you're doing, and and power to you because what you're doing is incredibly special.
Thank
And
you.
I mean, anybody who takes 5 minutes to see what it is you're doing automatically, immediately can feel how special it is. So I love it, and I hope you continue doing
Thank
it.
you.
So you doing it full time by now?
Me too. No, we can talk after about what I'm doing next, but I have a
Mm-hmm.
full-time job. I do this on the side now because
Okay,
these bills have to get paid.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Well,
So I'm looking for partners if anybody's listening.
the day will come. The day will come for you. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Host of Biblically Speaking, Cassian Bellino. How can everybody reach you? How they want to talk to you more? They want to connect with you. They're totally inspired. How do they get a hold of you?
You could go to my website. It's www.bib, like a baby bib, bibspeak.com, bibspeak.com, or just type in biblically speaking. You can find me on Instagram and I'm on there every single day. Or you could just listen to the podcast. It's everywhere, I think. Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartMedia, it's everywhere. So you could listen to an episode, you could DM me, you could go to my website, you could buy something from me, you could donate. All of those things would be great. Or you could just share it with somebody. That would also be great. So that's where I'm at. Thanks for asking.
Okay. We'll have all the links that we possibly can have in the show notes to get everybody to.
Just
So
www.bibspeak.com.
there we go. We'll do everything we can to further the cause for sure. All right, Cassie, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing
Thanks,
what you
Rory.
have, and just for being yourself. Absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you,
Thank you.
folks. I mean, it is time. It is absolutely time to wake up the lions. More than that, it's time for you to take your rightful place with your brothers and sisters and let them hear you roar. The world is ready for you. You're ready. You just have to believe it.